So we'll get started up. So Kira, you pronounce your last name Dies?
Dies, yeah.
Okay, Jeff and I were debating, so wanted
Yeah.
to make sure I got it right. Dies is from Boston Children's Hospital, and yeah, we've been working with her for years now. And I think a lot of people who have been following the news may have seen that there have been a lot of cuts in the U.S. to funding, and one of the things that's behind everything that we've been talking about is that it does take funding for all of these things that have to happen, whether that's studying patients or studying cells or whatever. And so there's a new, huge uh, network forming based on philanthropic money, which is hopefully going to step in maybe to cover some of what's missing in the coming years, and that's ARIA. And so Kira was going to introduce us to this gigantic project and what will be happening in it. So Kira, if you can introduce yourself a little further
Absolutely.
and then
Hi,
talk about ARIA.
wonderful to be here. I'm Kira Dyes, as you said. I'm a genetic counselor by training, and I have been working with iDefine, I think, since its inception, since Jeff and Ella came to visit us in the Department of Neurology many years ago. So I am lucky to have played a small part in, both getting the KS clinic at Boston Children's started with our wonderful colleagues who you heard from yesterday, Zoe, Dr. Sid, and Dr. Lipton, and also was part of the DCM that was published that they talked about yesterday. So we have a long history, but today I'm actually going to talk from a different angle with a different hat that I wear, which, as Eric just mentioned, is this literally like happening right now, hot off the press, new network called ARIA, Aligning Research to Impact Autism. And so while there's limited information as we're just getting started here, I think it's could be a great opportunity down the road for collaboration and maybe for plugging into for clinical trials. So let me tell you a bit about where this came from with this kind of the umbrella organization, which is called the Coalition for Aligning Science. And I'll tell you about what ARIA is and where we are in the development phase. So, as I said, the Coalition for Aligning Science is really kind of the steering right now of the ship, and it's a group that designs and implements these large-scale biomedical research programs, really pushing discoveries forward. And their programs are designed to fill research gaps and pioneer their open science policies and facilitate success specific to the field of interest. So their field of interest is really in the CNS disorders. So they have, for a long time, been working on Parkinson's with the program called the ASAP, Aligning Science Across Parkinson's. So again, similar mission, accelerating the pace of discovery and informing path to cures for Parkinson's. And then more recently, they launched BD2, Breakthrough Discoveries for bipolar disorder. And incredible impact, really exciting. So ASAP, again, this is the Parkinson's one. You can see they've just a huge team with all of these. Sorry, I'm going to move my screen is blocked. Incredible research output, over 160 investigators working on this. They've got 150,000 people in their genetics program now and over 4,000 in their biomarkers program. So, and then the bipolar, which is a little more recent, also really impressive footprint, over 100 scientists and clinicians involved. They have 10 clinical sites now ongoing, over 500 participants consented, and they will have their first data release in the coming months. So, big dollars involved in these kind of huge consortia. So they've also given out over $60 million in grants. So ARIA is like the third pillar for Coalition for Aligning Science. So aligning research to impact autism, or ARIA, is, again, a new initiative for research insights and promising technologies from across scientific fields. Our goal is to advance scientific discovery, create more therapeutic options for people with profound autism, and people on the spectrum who are seeking additional support. So, mission is to accelerate understanding of autism and related neurodevelopmental conditions. And our long-term vision is a research and clinical care system working in concert to deliver therapies for autistic people and people with related neurodevelopmental conditions seeking support. So here are the strategic priorities. The near-term impact, really looking to expand evidence-based treatments for patients and families seeking such care. Accelerate translation. You heard a lot about biomarker discoveries and the importance of having biomarkers for clinical trials to really demonstrate objectively that treatments are effective. So there will be a lot of investment into biomarker discoveries, enhancing innovation, looking to do game-changing new innovative targets and therapies. Really having overall better understanding of human brain development and how that is involved in neurodevelopmental disorders, and then harnessing open science, really bringing diverse perspectives and transparency and access to our learnings. So the first step is going to be to build this infrastructure. We are looking to build a collaborative clinical translational pediatric research network aimed to accelerate care for people across the autism spectrum. So this is what we're calling IMPACT, and this will be an international effort. So IMPACT is Innovative Medical and Precision Approaches to Clinical Trials. So there will be a network of sites, and that's where we will actually do the patient-facing, the clinical research. And then there will also be these frontier hubs, which we can talk more about at the end if you'd like, where we're really hoping the therapies and the innovation will bubble up. So there's a number of different hubs that will be doing that innovative work that will feed into the IMPACT sites. And then importantly, where you all come in is the importance of patient advocacy groups, patient community collaborators, and patients, as part of this ecosystem. So the stated IMPACT Network objectives is to do standardized, coordinated phenotyping and biomarker discovery across all these sites, enable these clinical research interventions, provide the opportunity to contribute to foundational collaborative human neuroscience research, and really provide the ability to run sufficiently powered clinical trials. So, with rare disorders such as Kleefstra syndrome, having an infrastructure, the same infrastructure across all these different sites, with coordinators, with psychologists, with biomarkers experts, with pharmacy, all the different elements that it takes to run these complex clinical trials for neurodevelopmental conditions. We're going to have all across the US and then partners internationally. So hopefully then we can sort of plug those targets in, and I see for sure a path here for Kleefstra syndrome, ideally to plug into that. So we're at the stage where sites are actually applying right now to become an IMPACT site. It's open to any public or private organization. And you just have to be able to provide clinical care for both pediatric and adult populations in this field. It is open to the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom as a starting point, as we get everything going, and because most of the measures are in English, so starting there and then increasing the diversity over time of what the measures we can offer. And people are either able to submit from a single hospital, or some folks have joined together with multiple hospitals in the same area. So importantly, again, for this group, the request for applications that's ongoing right now is made very clear that sites have to show their existing partnerships with patient advocacy groups and rare disease organizations. So, those hospitals that are partnering with iDefine will certainly be showing that. So we're again in the very early stages of building what, this four-pronged initiative is going to look like. So back to my role, we at Boston Children's Hospital in the Rosamond Stone Zander Translational Neuroscience Center, we are one half of the Clinical Coordinating Center. So we are sharing this with our colleagues at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and UCLA, where the PI is Shefali Jeste. And then here it's Mustafa Sahin at Boston Children's. I am serving as the study operations director, and we have a number of other of our staff that are going to be using part of their time to help set up this clinical coordinating center. So that's sort of just happening right now. We've been named that just in the past couple months. We are still looking to select a data coordinating center. So there's a request for applications for that as well. There's an executive committee of incredible scientists that are going to lead this work. So that's where we are right now. And then as we move forward, planning out the community partnerships, outreach engagement, the clinical trial readiness, actually getting these sorts of studies up and running with a natural history study, most likely to start. And then ultimately, as I mentioned, there are these frontier hubs. This is what they are: genetic medicine, non-invasive neuromodulation, pharmacological, behavioral. Those are where we're hoping a lot of the innovative ideas and treatment ideas will come from, and then we will be able to use this established network of sites to test these different new treatments. So as sites are applying right now, it's pretty specific what they need to be able to meet in order to be selected. So you need to have a proven track record of collaborative, multidisciplinary teams of scientists and clinicians. Again, the importance stressed of collaborating not with just institutions, but also family groups and community organizations. You have to be able to enroll, evaluate, and retain pediatric participants with these disorders, provide, very good clinical care and patient engagement for the next 5 years. You have to be able to, have the technology and have the expertise to conduct the biomarker discovery, phenotyping, and clinical assessments. Be able to do a lot of the work in the further phases that I just showed. You need to prove that you have and can conduct investigator-initiated, which means the investigator proposed the research, or what industry came to you with as an industry-sponsored clinical trial. So you need to really have experience in running these types of trials, and be able to really do complex data collection. I mentioned we are the Clinical Coordinating Center. We are charged with getting all these sites up and running and managing them over time, overseeing the data management and quality control of the data. We'll be consulting on study design and protocol developments, starting with probably natural history studies, overseeing participant recruitment and retention, regulatory compliance, logistical support, communication and coordination across all these groups, and then reporting and disseminating our results out within an open science framework. So as I mentioned, so we've got the ARIA executive leadership, there's a coordinating council and a scientific advisory board. And then I noted our two PIs. So we are the clinical coordinating center. We also work with Maya Chopra on our team, who also works on the action protocol that we talked about yesterday. She's actually the genomic medicine liaison. And then we have leadership teams in all of these categories for biomarkers, behavioral teams, data management, regulatory, and outreach and engagement. So we are literally building this right now. A lot of these folks have not yet been hired, but we are starting to put the pieces in place for this coordinating center. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're literally flying the plane as we speak and building it. So we are at the point where the full applications are actually due mid-October. So again, this is the sites applying to become part of the Impact Network. And then they will be interviewed, and CAS is expecting to award the 10 or so sites. We're not sure of the final numbers in December. So that a lot of this research ideally will start middle of 2026. So what we're working on next steps for ARIA are to get ready for when the sites are selected, and our role as clinical coordinating center will be helping to onboard them and develop this network. We are looking at centralized vendors. As I mentioned, the data coordinating center, where will our repository be? Where will our genetic testing take place? As I mentioned, the first step will probably be to establish natural history studies. These frontier science hubs all have been formed now. They all have leadership, but they are developing their own plans. And then ultimately, the goal is the natural history study, and these hub findings are going to feed and drive future clinical trials. So at 1 o'clock today, in fact, ARIA and Agenda are meeting. So I know that iDefine is a member of Agenda, which is the Alliance for Genetic Etiologies of NDDs and ASD. So this Agenda is a group of a number of patient advocacy groups in this space. And so ARIA, the leadership, has been coordinating with Agenda for some time now. So there was actually a survey done at the end of 2024, which asked some basic questions about what PAG communities have already built. And then my understanding is there will be a new survey coming out in the next couple of months to get more detailed questions about understanding the landscape of what PAGs have and need to move forward. And there may be funding opportunities from ARIA directly to patient advocacy groups, but those will be separate from the survey. But I think that ARIA is trying to just get a sense of what the community's needs are as they plan out opportunities. So very exciting engagement time. All right. I'm just looking in the questions. Does anyone have questions for me?
Yeah, while we're waiting for the audience questions, I had a few for you. So you mentioned the agenda survey. How else can the rare disease foundations help? Just kind of, you guys are building this plan while you're flying, and like, I think it's a good way to put it, because you can see how fast this is all happening.
Yeah.
What can the rare disease groups be thinking about in terms of helping this process along and helping you guys out as you're trying to design this massive new infrastructure?
Yeah, we were just at Global Genes recently, and I was thinking a lot there, like, how do we make these trials easier for families? And whether that's blood collection kits that are sent to the home, whether that's, a mobile EEG. So I think really thinking about what what are the boundaries to participation in trials for your community? As well as, I mean, that's why we did the DCM, right? What are really the targets that matter to you as a community? If we are going to push forward a clinical trial, what are the most important elements of Kleefstra syndrome that we want to go after? You know, I think you guys have a number of initiatives already ongoing for targets. You know, I have no control over this, but I would love to see some of those things that you're already working on kind of get plugged into this
Yeah.
system. I don't yet know how that will work, but I think there is going to be a true partnership here. And so I hope there's this
Yeah.
crosstalk where you can take what you're working on and kind of feed it into genetic medicines or something. I mean, that would be my
Yeah.
ideal. Um,
Are you guys mostly getting your feedback through Agenda at this moment? Is that the
At this
largest
moment,
connection
it
point?
is,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is where they're starting at least. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad you guys are already a part of Agenda. Um, but that's my understanding is where their collaboration started.
Yeah, and it's really amazing. Amazing, and the reason I really wanted you to speak about this is just this feels less like a grant, a philanthropic grant, and more like a wholesale rethinking of how to build this kind of infrastructure into what you guys are doing as you fly the plane.
Yeah.
Um, how to build this, like things like you mentioned, potentially centralizing the biorepository and centralizing some functions and really starting to look at this. And then it's not just the US, it's Canada and the UK as well. And then eventually other countries. It starts to look like this is like a complete rebuild of like this entire infrastructure to support what is a whole group of communities and conditions that kind of need a new infrastructure potentially, need a rethink. So it's just an exciting thing to see happening.
It's so exciting. And then that's why I wanted to tell you guys about what's already been done for Parkinson's and bipolar, because, you know, they've already had success. You know, I'm just so amazed by the scale that they were able to do those projects. So that's why I'm excited to be involved is what can we do? You know, we're with autism and neurodevelopmental
yeah,
disorders with a, you know, solid stream of funding. As you said, let's rethink how we do this. This is,
yeah.
we don't have to fit in the NIH box. And
That's what I was
that's
thinking too. Yeah, with
extraordinary.
philanthropic backing, it's
Yeah.
like you can think now, you don't have to get someone's approval from government. You can think about what is the best way to do this.
You can be as
Um,
innovative as you want. I mean,
yeah,
it's such an opportunity. It's really a dream come true for all of us.
yeah,
You know, I'm really proud of the work we've done for the Translational Neuroscience Center. And I feel like we want to take what we built here
yeah,
and lessons learned, and let's replicate that at, you know, 10 or more sites so that when it's ready, you just plug and play, do
yeah.
the clinical trial.
And you mentioned, it's going to be 10-ish sites to start. Do you have a sense of, with all the knock-on effects of the sites, how many patients will be involved in some kind of a study at these sites in total? Like, what will be the total patient population in phase one that gets kind of pulled into something? I don't know if you have a guess in mind of have you
Yeah.
guys have thought about that? Like, it's going to be huge. Like,
It's going to be
it's going to
huge.
touch a lot of people directly, obviously indirectly, but directly as well.
Yeah. So, I don't know what it's going to look like yet because they haven't really, they've got a sort of rigorous plan to figure out what conditions, what genes they're going to
Yep.
look at in the first wave of the natural history study. There will also definitely be a cohort of those with profound autism
Mm.
that are nonverbal or minimally verbal. Um, so I think that will be kind of the first ways almost to test the infrastructure. Like, let's get started with a natural history study. And then I think that will be maybe a smaller start, but then the clinical trials will envelop, you know, many, many, many more people.
Mhm.
So I see it as two pronged and um, with opportunities for many of the genetic conditions and even those without an identified gene change.
Yeah, yeah, and that's important as well. Great. Jeff, did you have any questions you wanted to ask? I saw you pop up.
Yeah, not so much hey Kara. Not so much questions, but I do think it's important to kind of highlight that there is like a selection criteria that is it is a bit out of our control here. And so I think we need to, as a community, think about that and say, okay, this particular selection is out of our control, but how do we best position ourselves for these kind of opportunities? And that's where when we just had Kleefstra Syndrome Awareness Day on the 17th, and we want to that needs to be obviously a day that we're highlighting and advocating this condition, but really we talk a lot about rare disease as a marketing problem, especially as you distill down into individual conditions. And the more the community can engage and activate, the more we lift our profile. And that, like, you can't undervalue the impact that brings, whether that's the data collections, whether it's advocacy, whatever it is. The more that we are a poised and ready community, the more when it comes to opportunities like this, where folks are considering organizations and communities to work with, the better position we are. If they see us mobilized and activated, then they're like, okay, this is an easy lift. We're not going to have to do a whole lot. We just go to iDefine. They're partnered with their community. They're all in lockstep. They're ready to go. It's again, when we talk about research, we're talking about eliminating the barriers on the roadmap. And so this is the same thing with these kind of opportunities is as a community, the surveys are burdensome. Some of the asks can lend to fatigue, but the importance is for opportunities like this, where we could be considered to receive something. So I would just, again, that's it's not often that we get kind of the microphone to be able to speak to the community. And so when we have conferences like this or we have webinars, then we want to make sure that we're really emphasizing those things because the opportunities are starting to come out there. There's creative solutions beyond being dependent on the government. And so this is amazing. I love it. And Kira, you've also been instrumental in the natural history study that we just launched. You didn't you skimmed over that one, but again, like our partnership with you has been fantastic since the first time that we all had pizza in Boston together. So it's pretty cool to see how it's blossomed to this. So thank you for all you do for our
I
community.
mean, I think if you think about what you've done in 5 years, you are 100% on the map, and you have already, again, it's not in my control, unfortunately, but if you look at the boxes you have ticked in, over 1,000 patients identified, an international collaboration where you got physician champions internationally, adult natural history, pediatric natural history starting. I mean, you just really have put yourself on the map, and it's extraordinary in 5 years what you've done. And so I do think you will get attention for that. I hope you do. And I think it's really to iDefine's credit that you have made it on the map like this. So it's an exciting
Awesome.
place to be after 5 years.
Well, thank you. Well, we won't be in the agenda call right now, but I think they'll be recording it and distributing it. So we'll follow up there because certainly if there's more surveys to contribute to help build this so that there could be benefit. And also, I had you in mind earlier when Neil was presenting about brain model and just kind of highlighting the work that the Synaptopathies Consortium has done with your involvement and leadership. So that's another thing for us to model ourselves after as we think about chromatinopathies and how we kind of bundle those disorders again to lift the profile of all of us at once. So
absolutely, we can't do this as individual rare disease communities. It's got to be cross-cutting. So I know you guys, I'm preaching to the choir. But congrats on 5 years. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I'm excited about what's ahead, and we'll see.